Hi, welcome to Dr. Gaynor Speaks podcast. My name is Dr. Brianna Gaynor. I am a clinical psychologist and a transformational speaker. I'm very passionate about the destigmatization of mental health, leadership, and all things wellness. So today, I want to put on my leadership hat for a little bit. I am a business owner for the past 11 years. 11 years. And the name of my practice is Peace of Mind Psychological Services. And today I want to talk about 7 ways to motivate your team that actually work. Think about it. As a business owner, you can't do anything without your team, but a good team behind you. That is the basis of a good business. I know that I can't do half the things I could do, I'm able to do without my team. And so, how do we motivate them in ways that are helpful? Way beyond saying be more motivated, because, okay, that doesn't work, but it might actually make things worse. So, today, what if the problem isn't about their motivation, but our system and changing the things that we do as leaders? So, I want to break down 7 leadership proven ways to unlock your team's true potential. One of these, and I'll let you know which one when we get to it, but has changed everything for my company. So let's jump right in. All right, so what's the problem with motivation? Motivation isn't something that you give, it's something that you unlock. So, what are some of the things that we probably try to do that are not helpful? Pep talks, talking about doing well, telling people kind of what the goals are, telling them they're doing a great job, giving pizza parties, talking about consequences if they don't do what they need to do. All of those things are empty without some of these strategies that I'm going to talk about that really underscore helping people feel internally motivated. A lot of times, motivation is not really about what we're saying, it's about how what we're doing is improving that internal force inside of them. Some people have it. Some people are already excited to do it. But what about those employees who aren't? How do we help to get them to their fullest potential and help them feel like a very valued part of our team? So, the first thing is to build psychological safety. The idea behind this is you can't motivate someone who is afraid to speak up or talk or fail. We all make mistakes, and to act as if we don't make mistakes and to react um, aggressively or significantly out of proportion when someone makes a mistake, I think is a lot of times where we go wrong. I know that I've done it as well. And one of the things that I've tried to implement to build psychological safety is to be honest about, first of all, there's a blame-free perspective here. This is not about blaming you and saying what you did wrong, but let's talk about how we can improve it. Let's talk about what we could do differently. So it's not about not addressing the problem and saying that it's an issue, but it's about talking through it to talk about what are the strategies and how could we have done this better next time. I know that I've had a lot of situations where we've maybe had clients who were frustrated because communication was not succinct. So we have different facets of our front office. We have a testing coordinator. We have a billing coordinator. We have an intake coordinator. And one of the things that we really had to work on is everyone communicating together. Because if one client talks to one person and they tell them one thing, but then the other person doesn't know it and they end up answering the phone, it seems very disjointed. I know that I've had experiences like that. So when those things have happened, we've talked about, okay, where did the communication go wrong? We've addressed that it's an issue, but let's talk about where we can improve it. The other part, though, to that is I am also very open and willing to admit when I do something wrong. If you send me an email and I responded incorrectly because I didn't read the whole thing, or if I had a conversation with the client and I did not relay it to my staff, that's communication as well. And so part of it is talking about not blaming, but coming up with a solution. but also talking about where I go wrong too, and being very open to admit that. It really creates a team atmosphere when we know we're all working on the same team. We're all human, we're all making mistakes, and we're all working together to do this. I think another thing that goes along with building this psychological safety is we, not I, not you, but we. We are doing this together. I've learned that a lot of times just that change of language makes a difference because it really shows that we are doing this together. And if there is an issue and something we need to address, let's talk about a solution. If I need to step in, I will too. So also knowing that there will be some things that you will correct, but I'm going to make sure that you're also taken care of. So in situations where there is a disgruntled customer or there's some disrespect, management's going to take care of that. You don't have to deal with that. So you know we have your back. So creating that psychological safety is really the bedrock of these strategies. So people know that they can come. We can talk about things that haven't gone right. We can make mistakes, and we're going to work to correct them and improve them. The next thing is, let's talk about goals. What are the goals? The goals must be clear, challenging, but achievable. And let's talk about progress. So what are the small goals that we can do to get to the higher goal? I think that a lot of times we can be very unclear about what's necessary or what's needed. And so one of our goals, for instance, is obviously we have therapists in the office and we want them to be full. So a poor goal would be, I need you to fill their schedule versus, all right, how many spots do they have? I need you to fill these 2 spots every week for the next month. That small goal, 2 spots every week for the next month, will get us to those 10 clients that they need. And throughout that time, you're sending me progress of how it's going. So let's say you're not able to do 10 because only 5 people are on the waiting list. I'm getting those metrics in real life. So I see the improvements you're making. I see that you're working towards the goal, but we need to extend it or look at other things we need to do. But instead of having this big lofty goal, how do we make it a smaller goal? And how do we create a situation where we're seeing what the progress is on a daily basis? We're creating a chart. So you're not feeling overwhelmed that you can't do this task. But as you're doing the small task, we can also see where we can adjust it. A lot of times we can create goals and maybe they're not feasible for that time, but maybe there's an adjustment and a pivot. So as we're creating goals and we're making smaller goals to get to that bigger goal, also being able to pivot is important. It's important that we're able to reach our goals, but it's also important that we know that being able to adjust and change is just as important because that's what business is. Things are up, things are down, there are inconsistencies. Sometimes the world is changing, clientele is changing. So how do we adjust and are able to be flexible and still working to meet our goals? And so then the next thing is autonomy. Control is the enemy of motivation. People are motivated by ownership. So people want to know that you are going to trust them to do exactly what they need to do. And I'll be very honest, this one has been challenging for me because when I started my business, it was kind of everything. I was so focused on it. I worked so hard to build it. And once I started to grow and I had to let people in, really stopping and allowing them to do their job was a challenge. But what I learned is the more autonomy and ownership I gave someone, the better they were able to do. Or when they weren't able to do a good job, it also helped me to see what they were capable of. A lot of times we interview people and we can see their potential, but it's not until you give them that autonomy to do those tasks, allow them to do it, give a specific deadline, that you can actually see what they can do. When you are overlooking, when you are micromanaging, it's really hard to see someone's potential and it really demotivates them. And so what I've noticed and what I've learned is I have to take my hands off it, let the expectation be known, and see what happens with that. And whether it turns out good or it turns out bad, it gives me very valuable information. And so when I'm giving someone a goal or a task to do, the questions are twofold. What is your plan, and how can I remove the barriers? So how are you going to get this done, and what do you need from me? That's it. We talk through that. There's an expectation of a deadline, and I let you go. But if I don't allow you to do your job to the fullest, I am robbing myself of an experience where someone could make life easier and help my business be more successful, and also you of the opportunity to grow and see your potential. So autonomy is extremely important. And this would be the one that I would say that even though it's been the most challenging, it's also been the most rewarding, because it's allowed me to step back in a way that I never anticipated that I would be able to. And so the next one is to connect to purpose and impact. So the why behind the what. Why are we doing this? Showing that this actually makes a difference in people's lives. And so what does that look like when we are talking about the issues with communication, for instance, between my staff? We're talking about what the client is needing, why they're here, why this was important. So maybe the issue was they were trying to get a thorough evaluation, but they didn't know the price. Maybe they were not prepared for the price, and if they could have planned for it, they would have been able to pay for it. But not only that, but maybe their child has significant dyslexia or significant depression, and they really needed this comprehensive evaluation to be able to get the support they needed. But the parent needed to be able to plan. So they needed to have all the information so that they could get the child the help that they need. And what does that look like in the future? That looks like a child who has school resources, who has an accurate diagnosis to be able to get the help that they need, who can actually see improvement because now we have a guideline of what's going on. Really talking about how this all fits together and the importance of our work through meetings, through our one-on-one coaching sessions, just through conversations are important, because when you can see the big picture and it's not just a monotonous task, it helps you to see the focus of what you're doing and the impact that you're making. We are so sometimes focused on this one task, sometimes trying to step back and see the bigger picture of the impact that we're making in the world is humbling, and it helps to connect us, what we're doing, to our objectives, to our goals, to our autonomy, and to the bigger picture, to show just how important this task, which may not seem as important to you, is. And another thing is to put yourself in the place of that person. If you were coming in to get help in a vulnerable place, what would you need? And making sure that we're treating our clients with that same level of respect. The other thing is to deliver growth-filled feedback. So feedback shouldn't feel like a judgment, but it should be a tool for growth. And so what does that look like? So what about the SBI model? The situation, the behavior, and the impact. So really talking about growth conversations, talking about feedback, talking about what worked versus what didn't work, and really giving constructive feedback. So one of the things that my office manager does is to have one-on-ones with our staff once a month to talk about what's going well, what's not, and to give them an opportunity to talk. I've heard that sometimes they'll probably tell us what their frustrations are because it's an open forum. And again, doesn't mean everyone's going to say everything, but it's an opportunity where, you know, if there's something that's not going right, we can get some coaching. We can talk about what's not going well. And you can also give us some feedback. Because the thing is, when you are at the top, you don't see the things that you could be improving upon. So how do we work better together? And so what that constructive criticism or constructive feedback, not criticism, feedback looks like is, okay, so this was the situation. The client did not know what their price was. Maybe the behavior was you didn't have a note, so you didn't have the information to tell them. And the impact was they were frustrated and they canceled their appointment, so they weren't able to get services. What could we have done better? Was there a note? We could have clarified to stop and ask the billing person if there was something that was missing ahead of time. We could have sat and maybe listened to the client, heard their concerns, and found a solution, meaning, I don't have that information, but let me find out. These are some things that you could have done differently versus you didn't have the information. It's your fault that they're not here. You need to do better next time. Make sure you're paying attention. This is what happened. This is what you did. This was the impact. How can we make this better? Again, really coming together to look at solutions. Although there is autonomy, we're still a team. So how do we work together to make this better? And also in those meetings, there's also always going to be some things that you're doing very well that I just want you to know. These are the things that I appreciate about you, because a lot of times we all want to know that the things we're doing are appreciated and seen. So how can I let you know that you're seen? I appreciate that you come in a little early, that you make sure that you have great eye contact with the clients. I've heard a lot of great reviews from clients about the way you care, about the way you listen, about the way you're patient. I appreciate how you're kind to everyone in the office. Your disposition is contagious. All those little things that people do, they want to know that you see it and you appreciate it. And so in terms of feedback, both positive and negative feedback can be given in a constructive way to help the overall team and to let people know that you notice what they're doing. The other thing is recognizing the process, not just the outcome. So praising results is not always going to be great because it creates a lot of pressure, sometimes shortcuts, and it doesn't really look at everything it took to get there. So what about implementing some peer-to-peer recognition programs and being specific in praise? So when you're having those one-on-one consultations, seeing what else other people notice about what people are doing well, what that looks like, and encouraging them to talk to their coworker or to let them know what they're seeing. And also doing things that just kind of show that everyone is seeing the good work someone does. One of the things we've started to do is an employee of the month, where everyone votes. So you are being recognized for the good things that you do. Everyone is seeing it. And it's on a monthly basis, and you get to choose what your prize is. Your picture is displayed. It's a level of recognition where we see that you're doing good work. We all have seen it, and we want to give you your praise for it. And so that is also something that can help, because even if we had to adjust whatever that goal was, you now get to see that regardless of where you are, we see the good work you're doing. You don't have to get all the way to that quarterly objective to be recognized, because we see what a great job you are doing. So it's not just a good job, but it's meaningful. You get to choose what that looks like. And even if it's a small token, it's still a token of appreciation that can go a long way. And then the last thing is to cultivate healthy challenge and camaraderie. So a little friendly competition, shared struggles, team spirit, creating team-based challenges where people can work together towards specific goals, creating problem solving. One of the things that has been really helpful, again, is for us to connect our staff and make sure they're all talking together. Because as they've all learned to problem solve with clients, it's helped them to come to us less because they're more confident in working together. And then they've been able to create things in the office. Like we had a Galentine's Day that they all came together and said they wanted to do for the office, which shows that they're working together. They have good communication, camaraderie, and they enjoy where they work, and they want to do something special. And what are some other team building activities that we can do? We have in the past done some safety classes where we did some self-defense, and we will do more of that in the future, because how do we all work together? Because this is a team, and I can't do what I do without you. And I want you to also understand that it goes both ways. You're not just here to be a workhorse. but you're here to be a valuable part of this bigger picture of what we're doing. And so I've said a lot, but I want to challenge you to try at least one of these this week. Don't try all 7. Try at least one. Which of the 7 are you going to try? Let me know in the comments. So I'm going to go over them one more time. They are building psychological safety, creating a goal, creating autonomy for your team, connecting to purpose and impact, delivering growth-fueled feedback, recognizing the process, not just the outcome, and cultivating healthy challenge and camaraderie. Try one of those this week and see how it works for your team. And my hope is that you will see big improvement because now you're building that intrinsic motivation. I am Dr. Brianna Gaynor, and I hope to see you soon. You can find me on all socials at Dr. Gaynor Speaks on Instagram and Facebook. Also, you can find my new book, Nina Smile. It's about resilience for the family and children alike on all places you buy books. Thank you so much. Have a great day.